This is a sample of the information provided as part of the flexible training resources available through HACCP.com. Our training courses are designed to provide training participants with an understanding of food safety and quality system elements and also offer user-friendly assessment activities and competency checklists to complete the training cycle. Verification activities. Key definitions for verification activities: control measure, any action or activity that can be used to prevent, eliminate, or reduce an identified hazard. Control measures determined to be essential for food safety are applied at critical control points in the flow of food. Validation, the process of gathering evidence to provide a scientific basis for the documented act of demonstrating that a procedure, process and activity will consistently lead to the expected results. It often includes the qualification of systems and equipment. Verification, the act of reviewing, inspecting, testing, checking, auditing, or otherwise establishing and documenting whether items, processes, services, or documents conform to specified requirements. Verification activities development. When considering the development, documentation and implementation of verification activities within food safety and quality management systems, the following information should be considered to ensure effective outcomes. About verification activities. Differences between validation and verification. Microbiological shelf life testing. About internal auditing. About business continuity and crisis management. About verification activities. Many processes within the food safety system require both validation and verification. The verification of a process is an ongoing check after the product is made and the processing is complete to ensure that those values that were initially validated are still being met. Differences between validation and verification. The key defining difference between validation and verification is that verification takes place after the validated control measures have been implemented through a food safety system. Verification is the tool used to assess the effectiveness of the validated control measures and to ensure that the validated control measures are controlling potential hazards as anticipated. Verification activities are applied during or after the food operation to determine that the validated control measures have been effectively implemented to achieve ongoing control of the relevant identified hazards. Common verification methods included a review of records to ensure the applied control measures had been applied according to the defined critical limits or procedures. This differs from the act of completing the monitoring activities and records themselves, in that the verification element is to confirm that the control measures were in fact monitored and recorded at the specified frequency according to the nominated procedures. Verification activities can target single or multiple control measures in their application. Examples of this are provided as follows. A single control measure verification activity may include a review of a specific monitoring record to ensure that a control measure has been monitored and recorded at the specified frequency according to the nominated procedures. A multiple control measure verification activity may include a review of microbiological testing outcomes to ensure the product is microbiologically safe and meets the specified microbiological criteria. In instances where the validation activity demonstrates a high level of control over a generally invariable control measure, the requirement to verify the safety of the product may be scheduled at lesser intervals. An example of this may be where an applied cooking step reduces potential microbiological pathogens well below the safe level. In this case, based upon the process validation, microbiological verification testing would not be expected to be conducted for each batch of product produced. In an instance where the validation activity shows that the process meets the microbiological requirements, but not consistently by large margins, more frequent microbiological verification testing should be considered. Verification activities. Most food safety and quality programs will have a documented verification schedule that lists all the activities of verification over the period of a year. Commonly among those activities are the following: shelf life testing. Shelf life testing is often required where food products are likely to become microbiologically unsafe, mainly due to their composition, packaging and intended use. The primary concern for such testing is to define the length of time parameters, under which a particular item of food will remain microbiologically safe under its intended storage conditions. Other relevant factors may also include water activity and acidity as pH. The important factor to consider in this regard is how consumers may actually store the foods, and whether or not this factor may have some impact upon the food that they will eventually consume. This is where consumer education, and in particular, product labeling are most important. Labeling specifications for storage not only provide an indicator for consumers to abide by, but also provide a due diligence approach to ensuring the foods consumed are in fact safe when they are consumed. Validation of the shelf life of a product should take place whenever an input ingredient or a production process is changed. Shelf life testing is usually broken into two components: microbiological shelf life testing. Microbiological shelf life testing is usually conducted in a controlled laboratory environment, where the food items being tested are subjected to a variety of tests covering a spectrum of applicable pathogenic bacteria and spoilage organisms, usually nominated by legislative and industry guidelines. A certain number of specific types of bacteria may be acceptable in a product at the end of its life. The testing is conducted over the span of the product's designated shelf life, whilst the product is being stored under the nominated storage conditions. If the amounts of identified nominated bacteria are within the acceptable parameters of the guidelines, this provides a validation that the shelf life that has been given to the food product. When testing a product for its shelf life, testing should carry on past the shelf life to collect data that will enable an assessment on whether the shelf life may be extended. If there are detections of specified microorganisms above the specified levels, corrective actions are generally required. These may include raw material review, HACCP plan review, process review, training review, GMP review, or any one of a number of investigations to identify why the product is not safe for consumption within its designated shelf life. Organoleptic or sensory shelf life testing. Organoleptic or sensory shelf life testing includes as assessment of the food's parameters including look, smell, texture, taste, weight and size, to anticipate and define the customer's perception of an acceptable and unacceptable product. This type of activity is predominantly driven by quality aspects, which assume that the product is already safe, and that the sensory testing will provide information regarding how the product will perform in the marketplace, and whether or not it will be accepted by the customers who consume it. Finished product specifications are an important component of this process, and are usually referred to during testing. Organoleptic testing provides a wealth of information regarding a food product, and how it will perform until its use by or best before date arrives, especially when combined with microbiological shelf life testing as previously mentioned. It is important to ensure that any food undergoing organoleptic testing is safe prior to initiating such testing, particularly within the context of research and development for new products. Some food businesses use taste panels to facilitate this kind of testing, where a number of people from different employment and social backgrounds give their opinions regarding elements such as look, smell, texture and taste, and whether or not the finished product specification is truly reflected in the product being tested. The items being tested should remain anonymous for the testers, until the testing has been completed. Testers should be honest in their approach to testing, and rely on all of their senses to create a value judgment regarding all samples being tested. Retention samples. Retention samples are often required for manufactured foods to ensure proof of safety and quality aspects. These are generally samples of finished products that can be accessed if product assessments or testing is required after the product has been released to customers. Retention samples are often used to provide validation of product safety or quality after an issue with a product has been identified either through testing conducted after the product has been released to consumers, or through an incident linked to a particular food product. Some regulatory and industry standards require that a specified sample of food products are retained up until the defined expiry of shelf life of the product, or until the product is reasonably likely to have been used or disposed of by consumers. In many circumstances, it is advantageous for businesses producing high-volume, high-risk foodstuffs to take samples of products periodically. The holding of samples can provide evidence where an alleged foodborne illness has occurred, and your business has been implicated. The following may be considered where retention sampling is initiated: Sampling may be undertaken where large quantities of foodstuffs are served, especially where the intended consumers represent a large age range, or where specific groups such as the young or vulnerable are concerned. High-risk foods to be sampled may include items containing meats, poultry, seafood, nuts, dairy products, rice or pasta. Retention samples are also often maintained where food products are manufactured for a customer or to nominated specifications. Samples are taken at the final production point, and must generally conform to the following parameters. A small sample of the item can be placed into an appropriate sterilized laboratory quality container, or it can be contained within the product's intended packaging. Allergen-containing items must be considered regarding their risk composition, and contamination risks with other foods. A suitable utensil must be used to gather and deposit the sample. The sample must be labeled when covered, and include information such as product description, date and traceability of product, person preparing the sampled product, purpose of the product. Completed samples should be placed into a specified and contained area of suitable storage. Batched bags or boxes may be used for each particular sampling session to provide ease of location. Samples may be kept for as long as required. Retention samples are commonly disposed of after a defined period of storage, after product assessment activities have been conducted or until the shelf life of the product has been passed. Internal auditing. Internal audits are scheduled, conducted and recorded to ensure a food business has the stimulus to maintain their food safety and quality programs. Internal audits should be scheduled to include all elements of the food safety and quality systems, and should be conducted by competent internal auditors at a frequency relevant to the risk of the processes and products involved. Outcomes of the internal auditing processes should be communicated to senior management, and should include a formalized corrective action process for any identified non-conformances. The internal auditing processes within leading food businesses are strongly linked to the continuous improvement process. Did you know that HACCP.com includes resources that allow you to create, manage and implement GFSI and HACCP-based food safety and quality programs? Improve your food safety and quality skills and knowledge? Train and develop your team to create better food safety and quality outcomes? Find suppliers and service providers to partner with your business? The information and training resources available through HACCP.com included a variety of formats, such as website content, MP4, MP4 and text, MP3, PDF and slideshow. Are you ready to take the next step in your food compliance journey? Visit HACCP.com today to create your profile and access the full versions of our food safety and quality information packages and much more.